Hey there! Today I'll walk you through some of the latest updates, like custom Bezier curves, and show you how to use them for more advanced animations. We'll even modify things like position, stroke, dash array, and offsets. Let's get started. First, upload your SVG file. Today we are going to create a simple animation for a toggle switch. Let's start with the switch thumb element. First, I will set up a loop for the transition on the x-axis. I will set 0 pixel on the x-axis for the first keyframe and the last one as well. This will create a loop effect. Next, I will add 2 more keyframes in the middle, one at 30% of the timeline, setting the x-axis to 32 pixels, and the other at 60%, also setting the x to 32 pixels. At the end, I will adjust the animation's length to 4 seconds. Now let's work on the graphical indicator for the off state, the little circle. I will move it in the opposite direction to the switch thumb. Just like before, I will set the first and the last keyframes to 0 pixel on the x-axis. Then I will add keyframes at 30% and 60%, setting the x position to minus 32 pixels in the opposite direction. This gives us a nice toggling effect, but the animation still feels a bit flat. That's where the new ease feature comes in. We can adjust the easing for each layer and make transitions smoother. I will add a custom Bezier curve and tweak the handles to adjust the transition dynamics. I will repeat this for both the switch thumb and the circle to make the animation feel more dynamic. Now, let's add a bit more detail with stroke dash array and dash offset. For the circle, I will set the first and the last keyframes with a stroke dash array of 40 and dash offset of 0. Then, for the keyframes at 30 and 60%, I will set both dash array and dash offset to 40. This creates effect of the stroke disappearing. To make the whole animation even smoother, I will adjust the opacity of the stroke. I will set the opacity to 1 at the first keyframe, then add another keyframe at 24% with opacity still at 1. For the keyframes at 30% and 60%, I will set the opacity to 0. Lastly, I will add the keyframes at 66%, with opacity back at 1. This gives the stroke a dynamic fade effect just before the circle moves to minus 32 pixels. Now let's use the same technique on the second graphical indicator, the vertical stroke for the on state. I will set the stroke dash array to 20 and the dash offset to minus 20 for the first and last keyframes. Then at 30 and 60%, I will set the dash array to 20 and the dash offset to 0. I will also change the stroke color to white at the first and the last keyframes. We are almost done. One more thing, let's adjust the stroke's position on the y-axis. I will move it to minus 8 pixels for the first and last keyframes. Then set it back to 0 for the 30% and 60% keyframes. This creates a nice drawing effect from the center of the line, giving the animation a balanced look. To wrap it up, let's change the background fill color of the switch. I'll set the color to a grayish tone for the first and last keyframes. Then switch to a green or any color you like for the keyframes at 30 and 60%. And I think the stroke color in the on state looks better as black to match the background. And there you go, with these simple CSS transitions, you've created a smooth, dynamic looping animation for the switch element. Now, you can export it as an SVG and use it in your web projects. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more animation tutorials, drop your ideas for the next one in the comments below. Stay tuned for more.